Welcome to Grammar 4D. In this booklet, we'll go over the progressive form and conjugations of to have. As you can see, this is going to be a booklet mainly of review. So this video will go pretty quickly. If you have any concerns about specific progressive forms, be sure to go back to the videos of that specific form, whether it's past, present, or future. So right now we're just going to gloss over progressive form. Remember, progressive form shows that an action of the verb is, was, or will be in progress. That is the whole essence of what this form is. To create that form, you're going to use the simple tenses of to be as the helping verb, and then you're going to add ing to the main verb. Depending on the verb, you may drop an e, double the consonant, something like that. But overall, you're just going to add the ing. But just in case, we're going to review the various rules of the main verbs. So let's look at that explanation page. Most of the time, you're just going to add ing. As in this example of to talk, you conjugate it to the progressive form by just adding the ing to make talking. For the next one, you're going to drop the E and add ing. So to conjugate to tape to the progressive form, it will become taping. And then lastly, sometimes you will double the consonant and add ing. In this example, we have to tap, which in progressive form will be tapping, as you can see there. So just make sure you're paying attention. We do not have a reference page in the back of this booklet with the different verbs. However, we will not be using new verbs or very few new verbs in this booklet. If for some reason you're unsure as to how to spell it, you may always use a dictionary. Now we're going to go over to have. The verb to have will be an important part of the next section of Grammar 4 books. Use the activities in this book as a review of the conjugation of to have. So let's go over those conjugations right now. We're still at the front of the book looking at the explanation page, so let's follow along together. You've got the past tense of to have, which is had, and that's going to be the past tense no matter what kind of subject you have, whether it's singular or plural. Then you've got present tense of to have, which is has or have, depending on your subject. Obviously, with the singular subject, you're going to use has. With a plural subject, you will use have. And of course, for I, you will use have. So now we're going to move on. Oh, and you're also going to use have for you as well. So now we'll go on to future, which is just will have, no matter your subject. So just make sure if you're confused that you refer to this. Throughout this booklet, you'll just want to make sure you're paying attention to your subject and the tense that is provided. Now we're going to go over sentence diagramming because it's a little different in this booklet. We provide, once again, no reference materials for the diagrams. Instead, the idea in this booklet is that you create your own reference material. So one of the activities that you'll do is identifying the functions of speech on a sentence diagram. What does that mean? Well, let's jump in and see. So here you'll see that we have this diagram, and what we want you to do with this is, like I said, fill in the functions of speech. What are functions of speech? Have you already forgotten it? It's okay. It happens. We're going to give you some options at the bottom of the page as to what functions of speech you may have. So you have PA, PN, you've got interjections, you've got subjects, adverbs, OPs, etc. So what you need to be able to do is decipher what these different sections of the diagrams are. And as with any other sentence diagram, the most important two things to start with that are really going to be the base of your diagram is identify where the subject and the verb goes. Because whenever you have a sentence and a sentence diagram, you're always going to have a subject and a verb. So the very first thing you can label is subject. It's going to be the beginning of your diagram, and what follows after is going to be your verb. So those are pretty straightforward. Hopefully you can see that whenever you have that full line that goes all the way through the baseline, that is going to separate your subject and verb. So Now we're going to direct our attention to the next line that's connected to the baseline, and that's this line right here. Notice how it's diagonal. Sometimes it might be straight, and that's going to change what the next section of the diagram is going to have. So remember that when you have this diagonal line, you are going to have a PA or a PN. So just make sure you label that appropriately. Try to remember, what are you going to have with the straight line? Hopefully you have been able to answer this in your mind. It is a DO, a direct object. So just make sure you're trying to remember that kind of stuff, because it is going to count against you if you put the wrong function of speech, obviously. So now we only have a couple of lines left to fill out. Notice how we have the last few lines and they're coming off of the subject. What describes a subject? What describes a noun? Of course, adjectives. These are all going to be adjectives, but notice that there's a dotted line connecting those two adjectives. That's going to be a conjunction. The conjunction is coordinating those adjectives, so make sure you remember that stuff. Now, as I said, this is essentially your reference material for this booklet. So you're going to be doing this kind of activity every other day when you do your Grammar 4 booklet in 4D. So what do you do on those other days? Well, you're going to diagram a sentence. So we're going to provide a sentence, and you have to use your reference material to create your sentence diagram. So on this one, we have the sentence, "The striped and stinky skunk was big." So pretty simple sentence, but it could be tricky as to how to diagram it. So let's start, of course, with the basics, subject and verb. Skunk was. So now we can identify what the different parts of the sentence are. Let's first think, do we have any describing words? Yes, we do. Striped and stinky. They're both describing skunk as well. The is describing skunk. So now we just can continue on. The striped, stinky skunk was big. Big is also describing the skunk. However, it's after the verb, therefore in the predicate, making it a predicate adjective. And of course, now we just have one word left to identify, which is and, which is a conjunction. So we always just write that above. We don't have any fun little symbol to do with that. So using our lovely reference material we have already created for ourselves, we can create our sentence diagram. We've got our baseline, it's separating the subject and predicate, we've got a section for our PA, and then we've got sections for our describing words that come in the subject. So now we can fill in our subject and our verb, we can identify our predicate adjective, and then put in our lovely adjectives. So now we have the base of our sentence diagram. We just need to fill in our conjunction, and we have completed this sentence diagram. It's very easy if you get the reference material correct. However, if you do not, then you will find a lot of issues in diagramming the sentences. So it's very important to go to the center as you go through Grammar 4, just as it is to go to the center for all of your curriculum. However, with the daily help of grading and getting tips and hints for how to correct mistakes through the grading, you will do even better in this type of booklet. If you have any questions over this or any other Grammar 4 booklet or any of your other books in general, please contact the owner or go to your center.